What's going on, guys? It's Jacob from Topside MMA, and today I'm giving you my betting breakdown for UFC Abu Dhabi. Now, let's get right into it. We got stuff in green. Now, the bets in green, those are bets that I have already placed. The bets in yellow are potential live betting opportunities. Obviously, they haven't happened yet, but those are lines that I'm looking into when the fight actually starts. And then bets in white are lines that I have interest in, I just haven't pulled the trigger on, or there's something I wanted to talk about. So let's get right into it. With the first fight, we got Martin Buday versus Marcus Buchecha. Now, I like the Marcus Buday KO only prop. He has a mean ground and pound that we've seen in previous fights, and he only has one KO on his record, but I just don't think Martin Buday has the durability. He doesn't have the grit to really fight through an ass kicking if it gets there. Now, Martin Buday, he is a 2-stripe black belt. That's what I saw on his Instagram. And so that makes me think, maybe he can hang on the ground for a little bit. Maybe if Marcus Buchecha gets it to the ground, maybe he doesn't wrap up a sub. But I think if Marcus starts letting his hands go and he gets to a dominant position and he starts beating up on Buday, I just don't think Buday has the grit to really go through it, where we've seen Buchecha in his fight against Omar Khan, where he was in a war. That man, he's tough as nails. I don't think he's going to quit. I don't think he has any give in him. And Martin Buday just doesn't have any real serious power or finishing threat. When he's winning his fights, he's just pushing guys up against the cage and he's hugging them and he's controlling them. If he couldn't finish a 46-year-old Andrei Arlovsky, I don't see him finishing Marcus Buchecha. So I like, especially for these odds too, for plus money, I just don't see how Buday is going to knock out Buchecha. The only way I see either of these guys really getting the knockout is through a dominant position grounded pound, and I just don't think Buday is going to be able to do that against a guy like Marcus Buchecha, who's so well tested and well diverse on the ground. So I like the KO prop, and especially too because if it's a decision or a submission, this gets refunded. So for plus money odds at pick'em, I think it's great value, just because we've seen Martin Buday, he has broken. When Shamil Gaziev was piecing him up on the feet, he crumpled. He wasn't knocked out, he just really gave up on that fight, and I don't think Buchecha will. So I think that's a good play, especially with the limited risk. Excuse me. Next up, we got Ibo Aslan versus Billy Elikana. Now, I like Billy Elikana sub only. We've never seen Ibo Aslan attempt a submission. We've seen him get submitted. And we saw Billy in his last fight against Bogdan Guskov. He was able to land a takedown and get some early grappling success early on. Now, I don't think this line hits. I don't think either of these guys get a submission. But for minus 150 odds, Ibo Aslan does not go to the ground. He never goes for submissions. He doesn't even try them. So he likes to keep it standing. He likes to swing. He likes to be a striker brawler type of guy. Now, I was a little bit worried in Bogdan's fight against Billy Elikana because, yes, Bogdan subbed him, but it was more like he just was gassed and he gave in. That fight probably should have been a knockout since Billy was on the ground, not defending himself. So I think that was a bit of a fluke. So and if it's this same type of thing happens with Ibo and Billy, I don't think they're going to let him just wail on him on the ground if he's turtling up and shine away. So I just don't think that's going to be the case. I think if anyone's getting the sub here, it would be Billy, because at least he's going for them. So especially at minus 150, it likely doesn't happen. It's likely a refund. I just think the value is very good for this play. Now, the second bet I have is fight to start round 2. The reason I have this is because I think Billy, he showed in this fight against Bogdan where he was getting lit up. He does have a chin. If he gave up, he did get finished in that second round, but it wasn't because he was getting cracked and Bogdan was landing on him, but he was just eating every shot. This dude was not wobbled. He was not cracked. He was just eating everything. And he got to the point where he was more exhausted, and that's why he kind of crumbled up and gave up towards the end from all the grappling that he did in the first round. So I don't think it was a chin problem or a durability problem in the sense of being able to withstand damage. It was more so he just gassed completely out and had nothing left. So against Ibo, I don't think the shots are going to be that much of a power difference. I think Bogdan Guskov has a ton of power. I think Ibo Aslan has a good amount of power. We've seen Ibo go late, though. His third round knockout he gets against Turkali, he's gone longer before. He's beating up a bunch of regional guys in the first round, but I just think Billy's chin is so damn durable that we saw against Bogdan that he should be able to make it to the second round. I would not be surprised. I think it easily could go to the second round. If this fight went exactly how it went with Billy versus Guskov, Bogdan Guskov, would not be surprised at all. I think that's likely what happens. I think they have a not competitive striking first round, but I think they especially Evo after he got finished in the first round of the last fight that he was in. I think he's gonna take it a little bit slower, as he's shown from the weigh-ins. His demeanor is a little bit more calm. He's not as aggressive and intense. I think he's gonna slow it down. Billy, I think probably his best chance is to take it to the ground. So as long as he doesn't get submitted, and if they get to any exchanges on the ground, or if they're just striking for 5 minutes, I don't think either one is gonna finish the other. So for these odds too, at minus 185, I know it's a little bit steep, but I was comparing it to, as you can see this line right here, with the over 1.5 at minus 110. I just figured, we've seen Billy break early in the second round before, so for this, I mean, it's a bit of a difference, but I think it's like that for a reason. I think the odds makers know that Billy can be broken later in the second round, but he has the durability to last through the first against a hard hitter like an Ebo Oslin, because at the end of the day, I do think this is a bounce back spot for Ebo Oslin. He's marketable. He's a big guy in Turkey. They want to see him do well. This seems like his bounce back. Same with Shara. So I think everything is pointing in his direction. I just don't know if he's going to be able to get him out of there inside one round. Given Billy's Samoan chin that he has, I think he should be able to make it to the second round. But the fatigue, the gas out, if he gets finished in the second, he could get finished under 1.5 if it's early in that second, because of the fatigue that we saw against Bogdan. So I'm not playing the 1.5. I just put that on here to do the little comparison. I like the fight to start round 2 a lot better. So that's what I got for that. And also, I got the live betting potential on Evo. Evo Oslin, he's a minus 300 right now, which is a bit wide considering we just saw such a big gap in his ground game. So I'm not playing him straight up. But if this goes like the Bogdan fight, where Billy's maybe able to have some success early on in the grappling, and he's able to take it down and win the first round, that line should tighten up a ton. And I think after the first round, if that line tightens up, I think it's a great spot for live betting. And I probably will if he gets a lot tighter later on. So next up, we got Damon Blackshear versus Davy Grant. Now, I'm on the fence about this one. Looking back, I feel like this is going to go either one of two ways. One, Damon Blackshear is going to look like a minus 1,000, and he's going to look great, and he's going to take it to the ground, dominate on the ground, whether it's a submission or a decision, and look incredible. And you're going to be like, damn, why didn't I get him at minus 350 or minus 400 or wherever the hell he's at? Like, he could easily look that way. Or, on the other hand, he's going to go into a 15-minute striking match against Davy Grant, where that's his best attribute, and it's going to be a split decision, and you're going to be thinking, what the hell was I doing? Why did I bet Damon Blackshear as a minus 400? Especially when we saw in his last fight, he wanted to keep it all striking. He didn't shoot a single takedown in his last fight, so that's what's keeping me off of Damon Blackshear here. However, I think it's a good live betting spot, because after the first round, if they just keep it on the feet and they keep it striking, that line should tighten up a lot. And like we saw when he fought Cody Gibson, when he extends it on and the striking is not going his way and he starts to feel the pressure of the striking, that's when he might take it to the ground. So I like the live betting plays here after round 1, depending on how Damon takes that first round, in terms of if he's going for takedowns, if he's going for to take it to the ground, or if he wants to keep it striking against Davy Grant, that line should tighten. I'm on the fence though, because I do like this line as a parlay piece. Damon Blackshear by sub or decision. I don't think he's knocking out Davy Grant. I don't think he has the power for that. Davy Grant's never been knocked out before, but he has been submitted. So I think ideally, if these guys are in a striking match the whole time, it'll go to a decision. And if Damon Blackshear wants to actually get it to the ground, he easily could get a submission, because he has a mean ground game. But the minus 280 is a lot better than that minus 400, and it kind of cuts it down, just because I don't see the KO happening at all. I just don't see a reality in which that happens, because if he gets it to the ground, I don't think he's going to get some ground and pound knockout going. I think he'd wrap up a submission before he did that. So I like that as a potential play. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But anyway, next up, we got Muslim Salikov versus Carlos Leal. Now, I like Carlos Leal by knockout. Muslim Salikov is old. He looked terrible on the scales. He looked really drained. It didn't look like he wanted to be there. Carlos Leal looked incredible. We saw in his last fight, he was able to put the pressure on Muslim Salikov. He landed like 70-something strikes, or he was able to put the pressure on what's his name? Alex Morono. He put an ass whooping on him into the first round. He landed like 70-something significant strikes, which is insane. And Muslim Salikov is the type of guy where, like you saw in his knockout against Song Kanan, where he was able to land that nice kick from range, because that's when he can do well. He can do well and he's dangerous when he's from range, but his volume is so low compared to Carlos Leal's that I just don't see how he's going to be able to keep up with Leal's forward pressure when he's really putting the pace on him. I think he's going to crack. We saw it against Randy Brown. He got knocked out. It was a bad knockout. I think the same thing happens here. I just think Carlos Leal, this fight is weird too because in his last fight in Abu Dhabi, he got robbed against Renat Fakhretdinov. So this feels like the UFC is doing him a favor, like, hey man, sorry for the robbery. Shit happens. We'll get you a bounce back. Like we'll do you a favor. And this feels like it's exactly it. A guy that Muslim Salikov, he's good from range, but he doesn't like when guys really put the pressure on him. And Carlos Leal is a guy with power who likes to put the pressure on people. So he should be able to get the knockout here. If he did over Alex Morono in 1 round, he should damn well be able to do it over Muslim Salikov inside 3. And I think for the minus 160, it's a bit steep, but just we've seen Muslim Salikov not react well to pressure, and we've seen Carlos Leal be able to put on a ton of pressure. So I think he gets it done. I think he gets it done in 1. Maybe 2. I don't think a decision is likely. There's a possibility. I would not say I'd be mind blown if Carlos Leal took it to a decision. I just think he gets it done by a knockout. For these odds, I think it's probably one of the best props on the entire card. So next up, we got Nikita Krylov. We got Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov. Now, I'm all over this one. I got a lot of action on this, but I'm playing it pretty safe, honestly. We got Bogdan Guskov. I got by KO only. I think that's really the only way he wins this. I don't think Nikita is going to be able to knock out Bogdan Guskov because we've seen Bogdan's cardio has been able to hold up, and I don't think Nikita is going to get it to the ground and land some type of ground and pound. I think Bogdan Guskov's his ground game is so weak to the point where Nikita could just control him the entire time. I don't think Nikita even needs to try and waste energy knocking him out. As long as he can control him, he should be able to wrap up a submission. Now, we saw, Nikita's been able to submit good guys. We saw he out-scrambled Ryan Spann and submitted him in the first. So, if he could submit a guy like Ryan Spann within the last couple years, I think he should be able to do the exact same against Bogdan Guskov. Bogdan Guskov got round 1 submitted against Volkan Ozdemir. And I like Bogdan Guskov. I think he's a cool dude. I love watching him fight. I'm rooting for him in this one. But I just don't think his ground game is there yet. I just think it's been exposed. If it's exposed against a guy like Billy Elikana, a guy like Nikita Krylov should damn well be able to wrap up the submission. That's why down here I have the Nikita Krylov via sub. I just have a quarter unit on it as plus 180 because it's really like an IQ test for Nikita Krylov. If he's going to be able to do what he needs to do and take the path of least resistance, he should look like this favorite. I think the minus 200 is perfect. That's exactly how he should look. But it's the same thing with Damon Blackshear. They have a clear advantage. It's kind of like the same thing as Jimmy Crute and Ryan Spann last week. It's it's an IQ thing. It's do you do what you should do to win the fight as easy as possible? Then the odds make sense. But if you don't, then it's going to get dicey. I think Nikita Krylov coming off that knockout loss, hopefully that instilled in him, let me not stand and bang anymore considering my chin's been cracked. Let me do what I do best, and that's submitting people. So I think he can do that against Bogdan Guskov. So that's why I have the Nikita Krylov via sub prop, as you can see right here. I'm also thinking about a little round 1 sub sprinkle. I'm going to wait until after this Carlos Leal fight ends because I'm trying to play this week a little bit on the safer end just because there's not a ton sticking out to me, so I don't want to overextend too much. But yeah, also this other line that was sticking out to me too, I'm thinking about doing a little hedge play. Nikita Krylov over 1.5 takedowns at minus 150. Now, there's a chance, if I do one of these, I'm probably going to do the other. So if I'm doing one, I'm probably going to do both. Because I think if this goes beyond round 1 and Nikita can't get him out of there in the first round, I think he's going to land a takedown in the second round. I think he's going to be able to land at least 1 takedown for every round this goes, if this goes that far. Just because we've seen Bogdan's takedown game is just his defense is not good. He's weak on the ground. He's not good against defending takedowns. Once he gets to the ground, he's not helpless, but he does not look good. So I just think if it gets that far, if he gets outside of the first round, these kind of almost hedge each other. And especially at plus 275, I think it's a good hedge line for this. So if you're playing one of these, I would recommend doing both. I'm thinking about maybe doing a little quarter unit on this and maybe half unit or 0.75 unit on this. Just because if I think this goes into the second round, which it very likely could, I think Nikita should hit this line clear as day if it goes into the second. So anyway, that's for this. I don't think I said too. Nikita Krylov decision only. I think if this goes to a decision, I like the minus 215 seems like a dead even line or dead accurate line. Because if this does go to a decision, it's likely going to be Nikita Krylov just hugging Bogdan Guskov on the ground and just wet blanking in him for 15 minutes. Because I think he easily could do that. It's not the most entertaining way for him to win this fight, but I would not be surprised. And if this goes to a decision, I'm very I think it's very likely that it would be Krylov, Wet Blankenstein, Guskov, as opposed to having some back and forth striking match where it's super competitive and it's a 50-50. Because I just don't think Nikita Krylov, he's dangerous early on, but the longer it goes, like I think if this goes to the third round, I could see Guskov getting a knockout win in the third round. I think Nikita Krylov is going to be dangerous early, but he probably will start to fade as this goes on. I think the first 2 rounds will probably go Nikita's way. I think the third round would probably go for Guskov. So even if this does remain somewhat competitive, as long as Nikita plays it smart and he goes with the grappling heavy game plan, especially like he did against Volkan Ozdemir, he should be able to win this. Like, this is his fight to screw up, pretty much. Where Bogdan, he's really kind of fighting an upward battle against a guy who has good takedown and good grappling like Nikita Krylov does. So anyway, that does it for that one. Next up, we got Asu Amabaya versus Jose Ochoa. Now, I like the over 2.5. It's same thing. The line is not great, but at the same time, I think both these guys are durable. You know, I think this line is a little bit tighter than it should, or I mean, it's tighter than it would be, considering Asu got finished in his last loss. But the thing is, if you look at that loss, he's getting eye poked. You know, he's getting fouls committed on him, and the stoppage was early too. Like right when he's stopping, Asu's shooting in for a takedown, and yeah, you could say, oh, he was like running away, but he was still conscious. He was defending himself. He was trying to get shit out of his eye, like, and by the time the ref pulled him off, he was midway through a takedown. So I think that was an early stoppage. That won't happen in this type of fight. If anyone's getting the finish, it would be likely be Jose Ochoa knocking out Asu, but we've seen Asu absorb shots from Manel Kape. So I think he should be able to do the same from Ochoa, because I think Ochoa might have more power, but I think Kape has more accuracy and more precision. He probably would land the cleaner shots. So I think if Asu could take those shots from Kape, I think he should be able to do the same from Ochoa. And this one's tough because it's like, I think it goes over too, because it's like, I think this will likely have a lot of standing exchanges, and I think it'll be close. That's why I don't want to really pick either side. Asu was the favorite, but now he's tightening up. Now it's a pick 'em. Last time I checked, it was minus 110 for each guy. So I just don't have a ton of confidence to really go on the money line for either one of them. Now, I thought about doing the a plus 7.5, as you can see, one of my parlays down here. I like the plus 7.5 on both him and Saeed. You know, I like those lines this week because I think these guys are both super durable and they both have more power. So it's like maybe they get wrestle fucked for 15 minutes, but if there's one round where they start to land some shots and they have the pop in them and they start creating some distance, and maybe as the fight wears on, they're able to stop more takedowns, I think that could easily sway a single judge, because a plus 7.5, it has to go to the decision, and they have to win a single round on a single judge's scorecard, and that's if they don't get the finish themselves. But I don't think either of these guys are going to get the finish. It's more so I think they're durable enough to make it all the way, and I think they should be able to wrap up a round at least on one judge's scorecard through their power. Like, they have the more damaging blows that they'll be landing. So I would imagine at least one judge would be able to give them a single round in a fight that I think Jose Ochoa and I think Said Nurmagomedov, I think they both can win their fights outright, let alone hit the plus 7.5 spread or get finished. So I don't think they'll get finished. I think it goes long. But anyway, that does it for this one. I like the over 2.5. I think it's a relatively safe play for minus 215. Not great. You know, you're not making a bank on it. I got half a unit to make 0.23, but you know, it's little things like this. I like the line. I'm not going to overextend on it. I just like it. And yeah, I thought it was worth the play. So next up, we got Shara Magomedov versus Marc-Andre Barriault. I've gone back and forth on this one. You know, I really thought about playing the Shara knockout prop, but it's just not good enough of a line, and there's too many red flags around this with Shara. One, with his damn eye, but two, with the staph infection. He didn't look great on the scales, so I'm worried about him. But at the same time, we know why this fight was made. We know exactly what's going on here. So the minus 650 for Shara is super steep, and he really shouldn't be that against anyone just because he's such a one-dimensional fighter. But at the same time, Marc-Andre Barriault does not go for takedowns. He doesn't shoot takedowns. He wants to stand and strike. That's why the two lines I have for this one that are potentials, I haven't played them yet, but I'm really considering them, is the Shara under strikes and the Marc-Andre Barriault under takedowns. Marc-Andre Barriault has not landed a takedown in 5 years. In his entire UFC career, he has shot, I think, 3 or 4 takedowns ever. For that odd, for minus 125 for him not to land one, is pretty, that's like, it almost feels too good to be true. That's why I haven't played it yet. I'm going to see how this card goes. You know, if we do good on the early side of this card, I might put something on it. But it's just like, it's one of those things. It's like, I feel like if this hits, you're going to feel like an idiot for not placing it. But if it doesn't, Marc-Andre Barriault's going to come out with a masterclass, landing 6 submissions and win, or 6 takedowns, and win the fight 30-27 on the scorecard. It's like, it just feels like almost like a trap. But at the same time, Marc-Andre Barriault, I just don't trust his fight IQ. He likes to go in there and brawl. That's what we've seen him do. His knockout losses are bad. They're brutal, and they're quick. That's why I like the Shara under 66.5 significant strikes. Because I think that kind of covers whichever way this could go. I think likely Shara beats his ass, gets an early knockout within the first 2 rounds, just because of Marc-Andre's chin being so bad at this point. But the thing is, mate, what happens if Marc-Andre Barriault, what happens if he says, maybe this is my only chance to win. Maybe I'm going to switch it up. Maybe those last 2 knockout losses were so damn brutal that I can't take it anymore. Let me just try and take this dude down and let me exploit his weaknesses. Maybe I use my brain for this fight. Maybe Marc-Andre Barriault says that. So I'm like, if that happens, maybe if Marc-Andre completely blows us out and completely blows our mind and he goes for some crazy style we've never seen, that should cover that under 66.5. If he dominates him in the clinch or takes him down, that could cover that. And on the other line, that could cover Shara getting an early knockout. I think if he's going to get an early knockout within the first round, it's definitely going to be under 66.5 significant strikes. I think if Shara does hit that 66 line, that would probably be a competitive back and forth striking match in the second round. I guess maybe late in the second round, I'd imagine that 66 would probably hit if these guys keep it close. Somewhere around that. Just because Marc-Andre Barriault, he's not like a in and out MVP type of striker. He's just going to stand right in front of you and he's going to stand and bang. So it's like, if his durability does last, he's so hittable that 66 line, if this does go long, it'll definitely go over because he's so damn hittable. He's not evasive. Because we saw when Shara fought MVP, his strike line was super low. I think I had it pulled up. It was something ridiculously low just because he wasn't able to land on MVP. Let me pull this up. So in his fight against MVP, he had 38 significant strikes, and that went the distance. So that just goes to show when he can't hit, he's not hitting that much. But at the same time, yeah, that's kind of interesting. When he fought Armen Petrosyan, there was a round 2 knockout with 8 seconds left in that round. He was at 65 significant strikes. And this line, 66.5. So that makes sense. That was a back and forth striking match that went for full 2 rounds. So you got to think, if you think this fight goes under 2 rounds, that's under 66.5. I actually like that line a lot. Now, the thing is, the bookies, though, on the odds, the over 1.5 rounds for this fight is minus money. I think the over 1.5, I think was minus 180. I believe maybe minus 150, but it was negative. It was negative odds. So that does have me concerned because I'm thinking, all right, do they think it goes over? Are they thinking this goes late? They think Barriault can hang. Maybe they're thinking Shara's not dangerous enough. So I'm torn on that. That's throwing me off. I thought for sure there would be some money on the under 1.5, just because when we see Barriault get knocked out, he gets knocked out bad, flatline KO'd. It's super early on when he does. And we've seen, this is made for Shara to win here. So it's so there's so many red flags with this because we know now Shara with the staph infection, maybe he's not going to throw as much volume because his cardio is not as good. So I do like the under 66.5. I'm leaning for it. Haven't quite placed it yet, but I might place it later on throughout this fight card. But anyway, that does it for that one. Also, I like the potential live money play too. If Barriault pulls some BS out of the first round, if this goes beyond the first round, that line should tighten up if it's relatively close striking, and there could be value on Shara. So anyway, let's moving on. Petr Yan versus Marcus McGee. Now, I like Petr Yan as a potential live betting play. We know Petr Yan has a slow start with his fights where he likes to get his reads and he likes to really figure out his opponent. And a guy like Marcus McGee that he's fighting is so quick and so agile, and he looks so good early on. I could easily see Yan throwing away the first round. And if we get to that point, the odds maker should reflect that. And I believe if this gets to the second round and it's very competitive early on, and maybe Yan throws the second or the first round, this line should tighten up a lot. It's already tightening up. Yan was like a minus 400, and now he's down to a minus 350. So I think this line is going to close a little bit as money comes in on Marcus McGee. But I'm still waiting. I'm considering that Jan has such a slow start and he easily could get this first round lost, and this could go to a decision most likely. And then now we're looking at maybe a split, maybe a 29-28 for minus 400. I just don't see the value in that. Where at least like with a guy like Carlos Leal, like, all right, this dude's going to probably go in there and knock him out. It's probably not going to be close. It's probably going to be night and day. There's no slow start. There's no throwing around. He's probably going to go in there guns blazing. He's going to outstrike Muslim for every single round, and he should be able to get this knockout. But if not, worst case is it goes to a decision. I like that for at least those odds at minus 500. At least that is like, all right, there's a not guaranteed, but there's a much clearer path of this. I'm a lot more confident in that versus Petr Yan. You're like, all right, this is probably going to a decision. He's probably going to give up the first round. Now we're looking at he has to have 2 rounds. He has to win the second and third. For minus 400, I don't know. That just susses me out. I don't want to play that in any parlays. So I'm waiting. I think after the first round, there's going to be some value. Just have to wait and see how he does it. If he gets to a minus 200 or better, I'll probably will put something on it because I think that's a lot better value and that's probably worth it. But yeah, for the minus 400 or minus 350, I don't have anything on that. And yeah, for the last fight too, Whittaker versus RDR. I'm tempted to play this. This is the same thing. It's a little bit risky, so I'm not going to, if I have a bad night and we're not positive by the end of this, I'm probably not going to play this. But if these bets go well and we are positive, I might throw a little sprinkle on this. Because I just think if RDR extends this fight, we know Whittaker's cardio is good, but his durability has been a concern. So I feel like if RDR gets this done, it would likely be early if he can smother Whittaker down, land some damage, because his jaw is so jacked up that we just don't know exactly how recovered he is. He says he's fully recovered, but after an injury like that, you just never know. And if RDR is able to exploit that and maybe hurt his jaw, it could be early on, and that's probably going to be when he's the most dangerous because we've seen him tire out the later fights go. So I think Whittaker's best chance is probably to win this in the later half or the scorecards, where I think RDR's best chance is to win it early on within the first 2.5. So for that reason, I think Whittaker in over 2.5 rounds is actually decent value. I don't want to really play RDR in under 2.5 because I just don't think he's going to be able to really submit Whittaker in the first couple rounds. I don't know. I keep going back and forth on this one. I know I pick flip to RDR. I'm damn near about to pick flip again to Whittaker just because I'm so torn. I'm like, if Whittaker can survive the early onslaught and he can weather the early storm and RDR starts to fade, I could easily see Whittaker taking rounds 4 and 5. I could easily see RDR winning rounds 1 and 2 with the heavy clinch, the heavy pressure, and I think he likely does win early on. So if we got 1 and 2 for RDR and we got 3 or 4 and 5 for Whittaker, then it's really round 3 is the make or break. We've seen RDR gas in round 3 before, but maybe he puts the beating on Whittaker. Maybe Whittaker his durability starts to fade. He gets his chin cracked a couple times, and then the third he's starting to get wobbly. It's so hard to say. I'm probably not going to have anything on this, but if I were, gun to my head, had to put anything on this, I probably would do the Whittaker and over 2.5, just because I think his best chances are winning later on. I don't think he's going to get an early finish. He could get an early knockout, but I think if RDR were to get cracked, he probably could initiate the clinch, kind of hang on for his life, recover, and bounce back. But it's such a 50-50 toss-up. I don't really want to have anything on this. Anyway, my final play, we got the play of the week for this week. I got Said Nurmagomedov plus 7.5 alternate spread and Carlos Leal money line. Now, as I've said, Carlos Leal is my lock of the week for the picks wise. He's my most confident pick. I think he gets a knockout. Hopefully he does, but at the same time, it could go to a decision. I just don't see a way in which Muslim Salikov is going to be able to win. The only way he's dangerous is if he's able to strike from distance, but we know that Leal is not going to let that happen. Leal wants to push up close. He wants to make it dirty boxing. He wants to brawl. He wants to get in there. We haven't seen him knocked out. We haven't seen him really have chin issues. So I just think all the factors are pointing for him. We know he has the cardio to go a full 3 rounds. We saw him wrestle against Renat Fakhretdinov. We saw him prevent almost every single takedown he landed. So I think this is going to be a good spot for Carlos Leal. He was done dirty the last time he's in Abu Dhabi. Now he's back. This should be his bounce back. They're doing him a favor here. So I like him a lot. And Said Nurmagomedov plus 7.5 alt spread. Now, this isn't Abu Dhabi. I've seen so many damn robberies. I feel like this is almost like a Renat Fakhretdinov versus Carlos Leal part 2 with Bryce Mitchell and Said, where it's like, if this is close, I see it going Said's way. If this goes to a decision and any round is close, it's probably going for Saeed. I have Bryce Mitchell as the pick, but I could just see him getting robbed, and I don't think he's dangerous enough to get Saeed out of there. Whereas I think if anyone's getting the finish, it's likely Saeed doing it. So, and Saeed's never been finished before. So if he's never been finished before and he's going against Bryce Mitchell, who really isn't all that dangerous, he's just good with the control on the ground, I think it leans for him, for Saeed. Because Saeed, at least if this goes to a decision, there's no way he's going to get 30-27 across the board. His first round should be really good. Now, I can see Saeed giving up the second and third round, but I think the first round should be competitive enough to the point where at least one judge says, all right, he probably won that round. So I like that a lot. The odds were not even crazy for it, too. I think the plus 7.5 was like minus 300 or something, which is kind of crazy considering Bryce Mitchell's not that dangerous. Saeed's never been finished, and Saeed's the better striker. So if he can keep this from distance, he should be able to win on the feet. And if it's close, they're in Abu Dhabi. He's the Muslim fighter fighting in Abu Dhabi against the Yeehaw American. So if anyone's leaning for anyone, everyone's going to be leaning for Saeed. So if there's any BS, it's going his way. That's where I like this line a lot. It's minus 172. That's the play of the week for you boys. So if you want to get in on that, that's my one. This is and I have placed this. So, I mean, this should be green because I did. This was placed. But next up, this durability parlay. This is the last one I had. I called it durability. It's the plus 7.5 alt spread on two guys in these both fights that are going to be super close. I don't think either of these guys are getting finished. I think Saeed and Jose Ochoa are both super durable. The only way they lose this fight is if they get wet blanketed and they get wrestle fucked for 15 minutes. So I think where we're at right now in this world, especially with, all right, it's not, I guess not Jose Ochoa, but just Saeed. Saeed, he has the advantage of, he has the Muslim crowd. He's going to be in UAE. He's going to have the advantage over Bryce Mitchell. And Jose Ochoa, he's going to be the one doing any damage in this fight. Whereas Asu has good wrestling. His striking is decent too. But the thing with Asu Almabayev is that he just doesn't have much power in his hands. So if you were betting the minus 3.5 on him, or yeah, if you think he's gonna win every single round, if you think he could 30-27 it, you have to really pray that Jose Ochoa has zero success on the feet. Because Jose Ochoa is going to land the more damaging strikes. They're going to have more of an effect. We've seen Asu get hurt by Manel Kape. Not like wobbled hurt, but when they were exchanging shots, Asu was taking Manel's shots, and he was feeling them. You could see his head go back like, ooh, I don't like that very much. Whereas with Jose Ochoa, we've seen him when he pops, dudes. And so I just think the power difference is going to be so vast here that even if Jose Ochoa gets taken down, maybe the first two, if he starts to land and if he starts to get the hands going, if he starts preventing some takedowns, I think he could easily, all he has to do to hit that plus 7.5 is not get finished and win a single round on one judge's scorecard. Yes, he's from Peru. Yes, he's not going to have any favors going his way. I just think he's good enough to do that, and I don't think he's going to get finished. We saw he got, I think it was 30-27, if not 29-28. It probably should have been a 30-27, though, against Lonair Kavanaugh. I think Lonair Kavanaugh's striking is light years ahead of Asu Almabayev's. Lonair Kavanaugh is so fast and so quick, and he was just a step behind in that fight. It was still competitive. Jose Ochoa definitely lost, but it was so not like the most competitive, but it was competitive. And I think seeing that from at this point, it's probably a year and a half ago. It has to give you confidence that he should be able to outstrike Asu Almabayev, who's predominantly just a wrestler. So, anyway, I have this. I actually have not played this one yet, so I'm leaving it in white for now. Just gonna wait a little bit and see how the night goes, because some of these fights are later on. I kind of want to get through these early ones first, especially if we have some live plays going. But I like that a lot. For minus 139, I think it's a great value play, and there's a high probability that I do end up playing that, but just haven't done it yet. So. Anyway, guys, that does it for my betting breakdown for UFC Abu Dhabi. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry for the late upload. I was just trying to figure out some of these lines. It's hard to find value this week. That's why I'm trying to play it a little more safe this week, just because not a whole lot was sticking out to me. I don't want to overextend too much. But yeah, that does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for all the love on recent videos, too. It means a lot. And yeah, next week, coming up, we'll have a ton of videos for the next card. I'll do a recap for this card probably tomorrow. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you guys so much for all the love, support, likes, subscriptions, comments, all that stuff. It means a ton. And I hope you guys like all this content I'm putting out. So, alrighty, guys, I'll catch y'all on the next one. Good luck for this card. And until I see y'all, peace.